Let's give a big hand to Dave Kerley. Gonna do his wing bowl.
Thanks. What's that? Oh, I thought. Oh, paying attention. Yeah. So I started doing some bowls with a handle on them like this, and this was actually a veneer log that I got from Tom Penninga.
There's a lot of brandy in that.
A lot of brandy in that. Yeah, nice color on this. I did this week pretty much just to get ready for this, because back when I agreed to do this was probably 9 months ago, and I was doing a lot of them then, but I haven't really done many since. So I figured I'd better practice a little bit. But this one, I like the form of this. You got the natural shape of the bowl. If you center it up, it looks pretty nice. Right now, I didn't completely finish this. This is a little shorter than this side. You can sand that off. You're going to sand it anyway. I also generally will chamfer the corners around just to make it a little less sharp to handle, that kind of thing. I did one of these, and after I had it sitting for a long time, but after I finished it, I really liked the form of it, the shape of it, and how it looked. So then I started exploring different things. And if you take a log that has got a bend in it, then you can kind of do something like that with the shape of that. So the bark came off of this, so I just embellished it with carving burrs. And it's very rustic, that's the kind of stuff I like to do. I kind of took it to the form of, all right, let's see what happens when I start to do a basket. I got to this point right here and I thought, I'm not sure I like this. So I stopped. And then after, picking it up yesterday and bringing it to the club, it's like, well, if I do some windows here and get that basket all the way up here, it might turn out okay, but I'd have to reach over the top here to have any handle left, because to have this continue up here, it's just going to look funny. So just, I was kind of exploring that. I often do one of these baskets, get about halfway done and say, yeah, that's not working, so I don't know about that. But so this is another one I did this week, and I got to a point where I had bark coming off, so I thought it would be a good example to show, well, if the bark comes off, just, deal with it. You just take the rest of the bark off. When I set these up, I'm also paying attention to where the wood is and not the bark. So if it does fly off, then I know where I'm at. I know what I've got left. So I brought that in. Last February, we had storms and a lot of trees down. This particular sassafras bush tree had a big bend in it. So I thought that's going to be what I bring into demo. And the idea of having, swept up handles, you could go the other way. This was actually part of this knuckle, if you will, this bend. And so this could be the bowl portion, and you have these going down.
To put in there.
So there's ways to play with this. So what I'm going to do is set this one up, and I'll explain a little bit. What I'm trying to do is when I cut this on the bandsaw, I'm really trying to sort of balance out the wings and just remove a lot of material that, you can remove it on the lathe, but it's why, if you got a bandsaw, you might as well use it. So I had to go to Boston last week for the whole entire week, so I didn't really get time to make a handout. But I also think that this is a little bit more of it's not as much step by step as it is, I'll do this and we'll see where it goes from there kind of thing. So in one way, I'll tell you, if you really want to get into it, there'll be a video, and I'm going to try to explain as much in this video that I can. So I've already kind of figured out where I want to be with this one. But when I do it, I'm using the safety centers. I drilled a fairly big hole with a Forstner bit just to get away from the bark, so I've got solid material to go into. And I'm trying to line this up No, you don't have to have a V. When I first started these, this was just a straight log, and that's what you'll end up with. So, but I'm like, let's make it extreme, right? So I was going to bring a baseball mitt for the people in the front row, but just in case the bark comes off, but I forgot it.
You're reading my mind.
Yeah, well, I saw you right there. So what I would be doing, and I use these, I use the safety centers because I can orient them any way I want to. I always push the pins back or just barely have them out so that if I have to reposition, I'm not stuck in a hole, pinhole. I've got the diameter that I'm dealing with. Well, the safety center in this case is, let's see, this one might not be in here. Where's the knockout rod? Here. A safety center typically comes with, here we are. It comes with, usually has a cup, maybe 2 cups, and sometimes even a cone, and sometimes even like a 60-degree point, depending on what brand you buy. But I use just this part here. This is, I think it's a 3/4 10 thread. It's a standard thread, and you can use a lot of things on top of that. And I have one that's a live center, same thing. It comes with a cone. It comes with a cup and other things. So good. Well, because you'll see. When you get this on here, you know, especially because it's green wood, this will loosen. It won't really loosen. What'll happen is it'll shrink a little bit just from the heat, and so it'll stop. And if you have a prong, it's going to want to try to bust out of that prong. And this, it's basically a circular chamfer. Yeah. So here's a prong, a spur. And most people are familiar with this, but this will try to bust out, and the piece will either fly off, or you'll just end up with it's a Forstner bit at that point, right? So, was this in the bag? Okay. Okay, so back to this. So what I'm trying to do is just find a center. I want it sort of balanced. I want to balance it this way. I want to center it this way. I also want to center it this way, unless I can see an opportunity to do something different, which is something I like to do. But here I'm just going to try to balance most everything. And you're basically just kind of setting it up here, and I use the tool rest to do that. So I can kind of rotate this around to see where I'm coming to and how far away I am from that.
You're lining it up like you would a natural edge.
Yes, yep. And I'm also looking at, I've already done that, so, but you know, you basically just kind of look at that to say it's centered along the axis. It's the points here, and I'm really actually looking for, I'm not looking at this edge, I'm looking at the top edge. So I'm kind of just out of the range of what I want to show. But on this edge, you see where the bark is, and you see where the wood is. I'm going to line it up to the wood because chances are the bark's going to fly off, and I'll know where I'm at with the wood. So I would basically I got to give enough room to spin it. But I'm coming around, I'll just kind of line my finger up here to see where I'm at. So I'm pretty close. I'm actually really pretty close right there. Yep. This is sassafras, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I like sassafras because it's right outside my yard.
How long has that been cut already?
I cut this about 2 months ago. It came down in a storm in February. So something like this, you always want to check your rotation. You never want to, you're going to break your corners off otherwise. So I think yeah, I'm a little off from where I was. Now to be super like lined up and everything, you can always fix things later. But if you do your best, you know, you don't have to as much. So, well, like I say, you add wood. Like I say, with this one here, one of these wings is shorter than the other. When I look at it, it's also a little narrower than this one. So I might say, well, it's interesting that it's out of balance. Holistically, it might look okay. But if I wanted to come back here, I can sand that off down to this width. So that's kind of what I mean about, you can, if you're not completely on center and you just can't get it right there, you know, if you're within 1/8 of an inch, you can fix it later. And I'm using my finger just to guide, just to say, where is that wood crowning out at? Not the bark, but where the wood is crowning out at. Yes? If you had trouble with the wings hitting the headstock, what I would do is put a chuck on and then put your, that's going to give you 4 inches or so. That's one of the things I was wondering about here when I came in this morning. But I'm not really going to spend a ton of time on this side. I'm going to turn the tenon and get my shape kind of where I want it. But yeah, I mean, you could, at some point, if you want these, you're going to have to get that away from the headstock, right? So the chuck would do that. Okay, so I guess this is where the tool hits the wood, I guess. So, any other questions before I?
Yeah, when you cut that with a chainsaw, is there a pith in there?
This was a, I cut this with a bandsaw to get this shape. The pith is actually in this piece. It's really center. You can see, where's the camera? Where am I? I'll just go to the camera. Oh, okay. So you can see the pith right here. And that's the pith of this log. It was that big. And it's way down here, you know, on that log center. And that was because it was a, I don't know, a branch that was sort of a hanging branch. So there's no pith in this one. Hopefully the mic will pick up as good or better while I got this on. I got to do a shameless plug for my nephew's band. It's called The Founding. And they're a Celtic band, and they've got a show coming up in Grand Rapids somewhere. So anyway. Nervous? But she might, it might careen off of her, him and hit her. Using a 1/2-inch bowl gouge. This is one I think I bought it here, actually not here, but when it was on 28th Street. So that's my kind of go-to bowl gouge. I'll also be using, to get into the corners, really sharp spindle gouge, detail spindle gouge. Let's see if we can get there. So it's a really long fingernail grind on that. And that's really what I use to get into the corners All right, here we go. My aim, I guess, at this point is to get a tenon for my 100 mm chuck. And this is kind of going to cut it close here, I think. So this might be very repetitive. I think everybody ought to be teaching this when they talk about a chuck. But I'm closing it down, not completely closed, but a little bit open. And I'm measuring the diameter of this. What's that, the circle? Perfect circle, yeah. But you do have to leave a little room for, if you go too small, because then you've got a problem. So, yeah, my perfect circle is going to be, yeah. My perfect circle, I mean, if I go to this flat right here, that's about where I'm at. So I might, I'll be pretty close there. So if I'm just going to go to that target. All right. I usually do a 50 millimeter jaw. I figured this one here, I better be safer. So.
Thank you.
Turn the lathe down all the way before you start it. It is on. There we go. I'm getting a little wobble. I just went through it, so. I'm at about 600 right now. They call it anchor, bevel, cut, and then some people add the D for the dance, but I don't know how well I can dance. So I'm just working that down to the diameter of the chuck. Perfect circle. Clearing out some wood. And I got a ways to go yet, so. Maybe got a ½ inch to go yet.
Dave, I noticed when you're making your cut, your handle is way down.
Yeah,
Always cut like that, or is that special?
I cut like that when I'm doing this. So I'm trying to get as much of a bevel contact as possible. I'm turning air, so that's, it's not always possible, but that's how I do. We'll check that one more time. So if you think of this as your car window, keep your hands and feet inside the car window at all times, because these will hit your knuckles. All right, I think I'm there. I want to flatten that end out a little bit. I'll probably take a little bit off of that. I forgot my tool that I made or that Bruce made for me in his class for the tenon cutter. So what I'll do is the chuck that I'm using has a bevel. It's a pretty substantial bevel, so I don't know if you can see it at all. But so that's what I'm looking for to cut. And I'm gonna take about 1/8 of an inch off that. I'm going to leave this for the tailstock for when I turn the bottom of the bowl off. I'll know where the center is. It shouldn't be in the way of the chuck. I'm going to put a little taper on here. And I want a nice sharp corner down in there for the chuck to rest on. So I've got that going. I'm going to shape more of this out. When I start thinking about where's the bottom of the bowl going to be, I want a little bit of area, flat area that the chuck is going to sit on. So I may actually bring the bottom of the bowl up 1/2 inch or so, depending on how things are going here. So I'm just going to contour this a little bit and see where I can go from here. So what I want to do is figure out how do I want my handles to look. Most of the time when I do these, I do a bit of an undercut. So I've got a bigger dimension here than down here, just so it gives it, I really ought to call these bow tie bowls because looking at them that way, they look more like bow ties. So let's get flat edge here. Once again, I want to deal with the wood, not the bark. So I'll just use a little straight edge here. I probably got about, I'll shoot for about 3/4 of an inch of handle to start with as a target. Any questions yet?
Yeah, how about the sides? How do you know how far you want to take that bark off? Like, taking all that bark off the sides? Right there.
The question is how much of the bark do I want to take off the sides? I think the answer to that is when it looks good, you know. This one's a little wonky, you know, but I like it, you know. So, and it was because it was a smaller branch, you know. This one should be a little different. I also, you know, had probably 2.5, 3 inches of a handle there, you know, where maybe it won't be as much here. So in this particular one, I'm liking this, but I'm gonna be coming in a lot more. So I'll probably be up in here somewhere when I get there. Right now I'm kind of working this from both directions. I'm working at it from this way, but I'm also going to be working at removing some of this. So because this is such a steep angle, I'm probably not going to go, you know, I'm going to start here with this dimension, but I got to watch what wood is left here on the handle. I can't see it because the bark's there, but I'll just start working on that. I can see the highlight of where that, actually what I want to do. Okay, so what I'm seeing is these ridges, the highest points there. Taking very light cuts. And I'm back in I'm basically on that cut that I just made. I'm beveling, and I pull out and then move in 1/16 of an inch and take a little more wood off. I'm fogging up. Anybody got a napkin or something I could grab? So you can see kind of how I'm heading into that. And it looks round now, but if I go in straight, I'm just going to have a straight cut there. Oh, thank you. I don't know if that's going to help. That'll be all right. Okay. So, just going to keep going here. You see it was stopping. That's the safety center. Like if you can actually use that to stop the wood and see where you're at while the lathe's still going. You know, so. All right, so we'll work at both angles. Thank you. I'm liking where this is going because on the monitor here, I'm coming back at a sort of an angle that way. I don't want to go too far, but I'm going to just kind of marry up those two joints right there. So I still got flats here. I want to get rid of that. Just removing wood that I don't want, and I want to continue on to get rid of this mass right here. Those cuts in there, they're unsupported cuts. I'm cutting air. I'm just trying to move that out of the way. That's why they're so rough. Here it's pretty smooth. So, and I'm looking at this. I might want these handles to be a couple inches long, and then I want this to. This is probably going to have a gradual curve, but not much of a curve. But I need also to understand where I'm going to come in for the bowl. So whatever wall thickness I'm going to do there. So a little bit more out of here. I also want to get back to my line here. I'm rubbing the bevel on the face cut there. Pull it back till I don't hear anything in advance of a 16th or an 1/8 of an inch. So I'm close to my line. But I'm also cutting that pretty short, so I'm going to angle this back this way a little bit. Remove some of this. Watching my horizon all the time. You're not giving me a lot of confidence, Bruce. Okay, so if we got a good picture, that light is kind of bright, but you can see the bark here. And I just had my thumb on it and knocked a chunk of it off. But so it's not very balanced on either side, but I can whittle some of that away to make it look better. I also tend to take a knife and cut that down so that it's not so easy to break off. So I'll just kind of trim it back. I still have a little bit of, I want to carry this curve up to that connection. I'll probably go a little deeper on that, but not too much. Well, I really can't, I can shorten this up a little bit and get a little more length out of it, but I kind of like it where it's at. I'm just got a little bit of an undercut here. I want that out. It could be smoother, but for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to move on. Someone asked about, I think it was Dave, they asked about, you know, where the bark might end up being on the sides. And I'm going to still take quite a bit of this off down here, so when I take the bottom off, I'll probably slice a little bit more of this off here. But this isn't bad right here. For, you know, as long as the bark stays on, even if it doesn't, you can always embellish where the bark was. So the last thing I'll do here is just clean this up. And this is the detail gouge, and I'll try to get that sharper corner there. I can see the material there pretty well with the highlights. Until my mask fogs up. Got a little bit left. I'm just going to come back this way. That's pretty good. I've got a little bit of a goofy thing right there I'll clean up. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's just a flat spot there or a bump. I'll take that out. I hit it, but I also made a little bit more of an undercut. One more, as they say, just one more cut. I feel like I'm getting a lot of bouncing right there. So I'm going to go ahead and just take care of that offline or off lathe. So, but it's, you can kind of tell the shape where I'm kind of going for. If I was using my 50 millimeter jaws at home, I would have more of this defined for the next step. Any questions? Everybody want to get up and go watch the Fordham demo? The first time I did it? I kind of did it by accident because I was trying to make just a natural edge bowl, and as I was, cutting away material, I had those wings left, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool, so I just kind of did that by accident. I'm sure other people have done it. There's actually, I think it's a Scandinavian type of bowl that is hand carved in that fashion. If Ted was here, he'd probably be able to tell us about it. But. So if I did this right, this should go on here. It's a little bigger than it should be, but this is probably the biggest one I've ever done and the most unusual with the angle. So we're all going to find out. I studied under the Doug Brink's exploding demo techniques, yeah. Isn't it the most viewed? Yeah. I'll try to live up to that. I'm not sure what's the best. I got to stay away from that, but I need a little more length, I guess. So I'll go back. Now I can get the banjo away. I'm going to knock that off because it's coming off anyway. Okay. So the edge of my wall is back here. So I'm coming in at a pretty good angle here. I would have thought this would be a part where you could go even farther back. Yeah, but the bark is still on, so. All right, so. Okay. So the plan here is then to kind of follow this follow the wall at, for me, I'm going to shoot for like 3/8, just so we're not making things fly off. It should be pretty good. The bark should stay on because of the angle that I'm approaching this at. You're not convinced? Okay. When you're doing a regular bowl, right, if you like a bowl that's got a face to it, flat face to it, or even the natural edge face to it. You kind of start in the middle. On this one, I'm going to start out here because I can get to this fairly quickly. So I'm really liking, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm really liking the figure on this. It's hard to see, I think, but some rays going on in there. So I think that's going to turn out nice if it stays together. This is kind of a thing where too slow is not good. Obviously, too fast is not good because you don't want, if it does come off, then you're going way fast. But speed is your friend up to a safety point. So. And a donut. I'm going to start out around 500 RPMs. All right. I'm going to wipe my shield off one more time. It's probably just the dust that's accumulating the moisture there. So as I'm coming in here, I want to see, am I kind of balanced? I'm a little farther away on this one than this one. So just to be kind of starting out, I'm here. If I have my tool here, then I kind of know I can pull it back and start my cuts. I can see my wall through the silhouette as well. Once again, if you keep your hand on the side of the tool rest, you should never have a problem with your knuckles. Yep. I'm just thinking of you. So, yeah, I'm about a ½ inch on that wall starting. I'll come in and remove, just scarf out some of this bark here before I make another cut. At this angle, I'm a little farther over the tool rest because of my angle coming in than I really like. I'm getting more chatter than I want to. Get a little closer there. All right, so I'm gonna bevel off of that wall, come back a little and start my cut. That's not a safety chuck. Okay. So I'm going to remove some of this, get that out of the way, and then I'll make another cut there. It's really rough. Up to 750 here. Tool rust just jumped on me a little bit. All right. Just checking the time. Okay. I make another pass to get this down here, the same thickness.
Describe, Dave, what you did there, was you had your gouge rolled over, pulled it back so you could tell where it was.
Yeah, I did. That's actually something that Rudy Lopez taught in his course when we had him in Grand Rapids. But so once I make that initial surface, I know where that is, so I can bevel off of that, come back, and then just advance it 1/16 of an inch, and then engage the cut. So I'm not getting the greatest cut here, but if I get too thin, these are going to really start to wobble, right? So, and speed, like I say, if I was home, I'd be running faster. So I'm going to try to do a finished cut on these wings right here. So normally I would go to the grinder and get a nice. Just honing the inside. I got this from Ellen Lacer. Thank you. I would have been able to tell you that if I still had the cover that it came with. I got to find that. So I think that's what made the tool so expensive, was that leather cover. So I'm trying to try to do a nice smooth finish cut here. I'm going to go up a little higher, about 1,000 now. And I can see the silhouette really well. So where the surface is, I'm just coming out. I said try. I think it's worse than it was. But what I can do, while it's still got some mass down here, I'm gonna come in with a negative rake scraper and try to clean that up. I'm gonna go a little higher in the center. Make sure it still spins. It feels like I'm making it worse. Yeah, made it worse. Put some tear out in there. So this is the stage, especially with sassafras, that I say, that's going to look really good if I wire brush it. So texture. So that's where I'm going to go with this one because I don't have time to make it nice. So. Well, I'm trying to top that, so I'm going to do it right at the end and to say, hey, we're all done. Okay. Okay. What time?
20 after.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to take some of the mass out. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. It is starting to make me nervous. So I'm going to pull some of this out. This is not a supported cut, but it is putting pressure to the chuck, so I'm not going to tear it out. Yeah, you like that? I won't even need a wire brush. Yeah, this is just, I'm just removing wood here. Not a supported cut, obviously. I don't feel like I got room to do what I need to do. Because of the angle that I'm going at, I'm hanging out a little bit farther than I'd like to be. So I didn't really think of that when I brought this in, but all right. Keep going at it. I can see the wall as I'm looking at it through the shadow. When I make the cut and I go down, I step those cuts back, because if I'm going into that meat, that's when I'm gonna get a catch. So basically, you can kind of see these steps as I've been going down. And if you can go in and then reverse, do a pull cut, I'm not gonna do that for you guys. But, yeah, if you make your steps, then you can just pull it out. You're not going into that and trying to get a catch in there. So. All right, so when I think about this, how deep do I want to go with that? I'm probably 3 inches to this part. If I want to keep this bark, I need to thin the wall down a little bit more. So I get in there and try to get as close as I can. All right. What I'll probably end up doing is just taking off with a Dremel or something, or just a sander, just to take off the parts that are gonna break if it gets handled. And so that'll take some of the height of this off and make it look more like that. I'm not going to be able to swing enough to do this with this gouge, or even if I had a bottoming gouge, I don't think I would do it. So try to get it as clean as I can with the scraper. Yeah, you can see that figure. Now I want to make it clean cuts.
Newspaper is also coming to them.
Yep, yep. Yep. Okay, so this is a little bit different than I thought it was going to come out, but because I probably would have wanted these to be a little longer handles, but I still think it's interesting. Okay, so from that point, I've got a little bit of a nib there that I can sand off and sand the rest of that stuff out of there. This part is going to be difficult because normally what I would do, and I just thought of this, normally what I would do is I would just use a piece of Scotch-Brite pad and put this on right here. I guess, oh boy, look at that. That's too close. Maybe if I double it up. Oh yeah, that'll work. The other thing I could do is I could actually do it on this bowl. But I think this will work. Let's see. Going right back into the I think I can use a smaller. I think I've got plenty. Matter of fact, I think I want to check that about how much I have material-wise. So I'm just using my finger as a gauge. And if I can trust my finger, the bottom is about here. So if I stay there or a little bit farther back, I should be okay. Yep, you're right. You're right. All right. Little safety factor. Okay, turn that down, and I got, what am I hitting? Oh, I am hitting. So I'm still going to double up. A little slippage. Now, I've never had the chuck and this pad put marks on the inside of the bowl until now, probably. Yeah. Yeah, I do have to do that. Okay, so I know I don't want to be any farther away from here, but I want to take quite a bit of this out of here. But I also want to maintain some kind of a shape. It's a little wobbly, and it's due to probably it's not due to this, because that's on center. It's better. What's that?
How tight are you pushing?
The tools. I can get a little motion out of there, and I'll see. I mean, I'm going to take pretty thin cuts anyway for this, but if it spins, I'll tighten it a little bit. I don't want to put too much pressure because I could break the bark. There we go. I couldn't have planned that better. I mean, I'm still, I haven't really, I lost a little bit of bark there. But I haven't really, I'm not going to do it here because it fell off once. It knows how to fall off, right? But I'll take it home and finish it. I mean, yep, I could do this one if we had time, but if we don't, then we're out of time. All right, so you get the idea. If anybody, wants to give it a shot, bring something for next time. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, that concludes